Maybe a little bit. Yeah. Or maybe, I don't know. Oh, we're live. It's always like so surprising because it happens so flawlessly. You know, the three of us are having a conversation. I hit go live and, you know, then it happens. So hi guys. Welcome to our webcast. My name's Jamie Migdal, and I'm the CEO and founder of a company called FetchFind. And FetchFind is a company that's designed to help pet professionals with whatever they're doing, whether it be helping them to grow a business, train their staff, find other ways to make money. That's really what FetchFind's niche is. And so part of what we do is every month we have a webinar, and we're focused on kind of any one of those things, helping to support the pet professional. And so we've had some great topics and great guests in the past, and today is, of course, no different. I would invite you, just a little bit of housekeeping, I would invite you to use the chat room, which is on the side. So if you have any questions, please, you know, Nick and Betsy and I are happy to, to answer your questions now or even later. Of course, this webcast will be available for download and viewing after it's complete. We'll put that on FetchFind.com and send an email out about that. Let's see, what else is important in terms of housekeeping? If you have any problems with like connection or anything, just let us know. Maybe we have a couple of folks from our team who are listening in. They can maybe be helpful around that. And I think on to the good stuff now. So let's see, I'm not sure if we're to your left or to your right. We see each other in one way, but you may see all of us in another way. I know, isn't that just nice?
Looking at you guys instead of the camera. I don't know where I should be looking. But
you can look wherever is comfortable for you, Nick. You do whatever makes you feel good. That's exactly. We're here you're being hosted, so we want you to be a guest and feel good about this. It goes Jamie, Betsy, then Nick. Thanks, Kara.
Perfect. So I have it.
We have Kara's listening in, so she's right there to help us out with this stuff. So today's webcast is focused on if you are a pet professional. So whether you're a dog walker, trainer, groomer, boarding and daycare owner or manager, or work in a facility, or you're a groomer, you own a retail shop, we can go on and on. Even if you're a veterinarian or work in a veterinary clinic, if you're a pet professional already, I think what happens after so many months or really years working in your particular vertical or segment. So I think what ends up happening, it happened for me, and it happened a lot for me, is that you start to get, I don't want to use the word burnout, but you start to get hungry. And I think people confuse burnout and hunger in the pet space. I think that they think they're burned out, but really what's really going on, and this is just my opinion, is that they're not aware that they're not stuck in that space. So maybe you are walking dogs or sitting dogs, or you're taking care of cats, or you're working as a groomer. Day after day, just like anything in life, it can start to become and feel sometimes a little bit tedious or even overwhelming. The wonderful thing about our pet industry is that there is it's an unlimited space to learn new things, try new things out, incorporate new practices into your current business. There's really no shortage, and whether you're doing that on a volunteer level or whether you're building a new facility because you want to start having dock diving, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you're thinking, I can almost guarantee, and my two guests, Betsy and Nick, would probably echo this, that there's a way to make that happen. And the other thing about the pet space that I think the three of us enjoy, and that I for sure enjoy, is that it's a space that's very open and open wide for innovation. And so even if it's not being done today, if you find yourself with the right people and you have the right resources and the right mindset, you probably could invent it. So, when I started out in the pet industry, there was no dock diving, there was no Rally-O, there was nothing, right? It was either AKC confirmation, some agility, what have you. 25 years later, you can do pretty much anything. You can dance with your dog, you can do it all. So, and my two guests today have done so many amazing and interesting things. And that's why we invited them to come on and talk with you and share with you what they've done and how they've approached things and kind of what that process is to creating new things for, we're calling it our toolbox, put that in quotes, our toolbox, but it's really just, it's your own growth. And we put it in the term of toolbox because it's kind of a dog trainery term, but it's really about your own professional growth, which also is your personal growth. Professional and personal, I think, especially in the pet space, there's a lot of overlap. So as you're growing yourself professionally, it's really it's really a personal growth, because dogs allow us, access to dogs, and working with animals and working with their people really does create so much self-exploration and so much opportunity to really understand the world around us in a way that I think other professions don't necessarily allow.
I agree.
Thanks. Okay, so we're going to, I think what we'll do here, I'm looking at my notes because I want to make sure that I'm really clear about, why exactly we're doing this webcast and why these two guests are so perfect for our conversation today. So I think what I'll do is I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. I think, I have a whole thing here I can talk about your bios, but it's, how about this? I know people always have a hard time talking about themselves, so I am going to do an intro with your bio. And then I'll just kind of, I know, you guys are like, no, please don't do that. But you didn't say that was part of it, Jamie. You didn't say that. So I think I will go ahead and introduce you, and then we'll go from there. So first I'm going to start with my friend Betsy. And I do say my friend Betsy, so all truth be told, I've known Betsy for a very long time. We've worked together for a very long time. She's a big part of my company, FetchFind. I think that we are a big part of her life. I really respect Betsy and really like Betsy. So it's nice to have her as a guest. It's nice to be able to have a reason to share her with you, because she's just really lovely. So starting about Betsy. So Betsy became a professional dog trainer, and she was certified through Tellington Touch. If you don't know about Tellington Touch, T-Touch, no problem. We're going to talk about that. So that's one thing just to kind of put on the shelf for now. So she also, I'm just going to read this because I can talk about you, but I don't want to leave anything out. It's so good. So, after successful careers, I sound so cheesy when you read it, but you're all going to be okay with that. After successful careers as a K-8 teacher and a nonfiction book editor, which she still does, by the way. She's also on, oh my God, you're so amazing. You have a BA with honors from Mills College, and I forgot that you have your master's from Stanford. Okay, hold on, everybody. Let's just take a moment.
Pull me out of the water.
Hold on.
I have a college education. That's about it.
That's what you get when you drop out of the PhD program.
All right, here we go. That's just what you throw out. That's what you get when you drop out of the PhD program. You have your what do you have your MA in? Writing?
No, it's in educational anthropology, actually.
Okay, all right. And you grew up in Palo Alto, so that, right? Okay. So she's on the faculty we have an academy that we run here for many, many years, and Betsy is one of our lead trainers, lead instructors and teachers in the academy program, which we're very proud of. She also writes a weekly blog for FetchFind, which we're really proud of. But more importantly, she is certified in canine CPR and first aid. She's a AKC Good Citizen evaluator, which is a really important thing. That's a great another piece for your toolbox, by the way, everybody. She's a member of the APDT, Association of Professional Dog Trainers. She lives in Chicago with her wonderful husband, John, 2 rescued budgies that you can probably hear in the background right now, and her brand new Welsh Springer Spaniel named Flint, who is ridiculous. And I mean, if you can figure out a way today while we're on this webcast to get a face shot with him, that would be that would be a big treat for all of us. So her business, though, so where she spends most of her time, and again, she'll talk to you about this as a business, through her training business called PetKiDo. It's PETKIO, right? PETKIO. Yeah, I always do the T. And she uses, and again, she'll talk about that. She uses a lot of T-Touch as part of that practice to work on behavior problems and basic training with the dogs. So that is, in a nutshell, my friend and wonderful colleague, Betsy. Hi, Bets. Thank you for being here. And your Instagram is American Radio Flint. That's cute. American Radio Flint is Betsy's Instagram, and her website is PetKiDo, PETKIDO.com. All right, let's talk about Nick. Nick began your pet industry career in 2002, so you're a veteran. We call you a veteran. I think anyone over.
I was in high school at the time, but yes.
All right, listen, high school counts, my friend. High school counts. You started your career as a veterinary surgery tech, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you became a biochemist for a biotech company. You guys are way too impressive and cool for me. After competing in agility for almost a dozen years, you became a judge for the AKC and UKI in 2015. You have multiple do you say matches? What's the term?
It's pronounced mock and talk. So
mock and talk.
For Master Agility Championship and Preferred Agility Champion. So a Master Agility Champion has to have 20 perfect shows and acquire 750 points. So you get a point for every second you're under the course time on an agility course. So it takes about 6 months to a year of consistency with a dog to get a championship. And with multiple dogs, I have multiple mocks, and then I have my very first dog who's now turning 12 in September. She has four championships total, so she has 2 mocks and 2 pocs.
So we know that Betsy is a Welsh Springer Spaniel person right now, although a former German Shepherd person. What's your breed, Nick?
I have 2 Labrador Retrievers, and then I just got a Border Collie puppy about a month and a half ago.
Of course you did. That's exactly right. There you go. That's exactly right. What did you say?
Shocking. The shocking choice.
I know, right. That's the direction you went in. It didn't sound like you were going in that direction at all. So basically, he's a badass agility guy, is what we're saying here. I mean, that's just. I'm just gonna.
We stay active. We do a lot of competitions. We travel a bit. I've traveled. Last year, I went to England and competed in England with Dog Goose. With the general manager, who's one of my best friends here at the facility at American Canine Country.
So let's talk about your facility. So you're also your assistant manager at American Canine Country, and that's in Amherst, Boston, or Amherst, Massachusetts, or no, New Hampshire. Sorry.
No problem.
I know that's a big thing. And your main area of expertise and concentration is in the aquatics department.
Yeah, so the business itself has been a business for 14 years. It was started by our head trainer, Celeste Mead, who's the owner, and she's an exceptional obedience trainer. And her daughter, Amber McCune, is the general manager. She's one of my best friends, and I've been competing with her for about 10, 11 years. And when I was in the biochem field, let me backtrack. When I was in the vet field, it was nice because I was with my dogs every day and working with dogs, and that's what I like to do. And then I made a change and decided I was going to do my college degree, which wasn't the best decision, but I felt bad. I was like, I should use my college degree. So I did biochem for 5 years and wasn't really happy. I missed my atmosphere of working with dogs and working with animals. And so enough joking back and forth with Amber at competitions every weekend. And I was like, I really need to work with dogs again. And she said, well, you're here enough competing. Why don't you just start working for us? So that's what I did. And they had just made a major renovation to the facility and really, really upgraded everything, adding a lot of the aquatic stuff that I'm now a part of. So, it's one of the nicest facilities, in my opinion, in the country. I'm very fortunate to work here. It was kind of started out as a joke with me and one of my friends. And then, the more I really thought about it and really missed working with dogs and having that passion back again. I just kind of took a little bit of a leap of faith and quit my recession-proof biochem job and took a little bit more of risk and chose to make a choice of being happy and doing what I love to do. So it's the best choice I've ever made, and I'm about 2 years into it now and really, really happy about it. So yeah, it's really, really good, going really good so far. So.
And so you've been full-time in the pet space for 2 years, you said.
At Canine Country here, yeah, coming up on about 18 months at this point. Yeah, close to 20 months, something like that. I don't know. You lose track of time when you're having fun, I guess, right? It's
actually a really good point.
Yeah.
Let's throw it back to you. How long have you been working as a professional in the space? Well, let's do 2 things. How long have you been working with animals as a hobbyist, as a volunteer, et cetera? But then how long have you been working where you're actually getting a paycheck?
Okay. I started out, it's a really good distinction. I started out working as a hobbyist, a volunteer, and so on in various shelters and with SitStayRead, which we'll touch on a little bit later. That was about probably, I'd say, 15 years ago. And then in about 2005 or so, I decided that I really wanted to, it might sound silly, but I really wanted to be certified in something. And I was talking with a trainer locally, a friend and trainer that I really respected. And she said, well, you might want to check out this thing called Tellington Touch. And to be honest, I'd never heard of it. But we were sort of talking about how that might be a way of addressing what I kept coming up against with the animals I was working with, the dogs primarily that I was working with, that I kept seeing dogs, including my own, who were very, very trainable, but they weren't very comfortable. They lacked, so they had these underlying issues or underlying concerns of either they don't have confidence, or they're shy, or they're introverted. And I guess as somebody who, and I apologize for the birds in the background, but I really felt like, as someone who was a painfully shy child, and really to this day is in many ways sort of surprisingly introverted. People don't think of me as being an introvert, but I am. I really felt for these animals, and I thought, wow, if there's something out there that we could help them feel more comfortable, then I'm all for it. And so the Tellington Touch certification program for working with any companion animal species, and mostly that's dogs. That training process takes 2 years, and it's not that you need to become certified to reap some of the benefits, but I wanted to be certified. It was something that I was immediately impressed by. And so that process started in 2006, early 2006, and it ended in late 2007. So the first time I really got a paycheck was in beginning in 2008.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that, because I think that's helpful for people to understand that there is kind of there's a difference, but a relationship between what you might be doing right now in your life as a hobbyist. And when we think of hobbyists, actually, before I go there, Nick and Betsy, if you guys, and I should have given you this hint before, but if you guys have one of these things, if you have do you have a few headphones anywhere around?
Don't know. I can check.
Check you do, because I think you'll have a better quality experience.
Okay.
that sounds so hosty. If you have one, yeah, throw them in. And I'll make a note to talk to future folks about that. Anyway, so I think that, and we see this, Betsy, and you and I see this for sure. Nick, I would assume you see this as well. People don't necessarily, and there's two conversations to have, right? When do I start doing something, and when do I make that something into something else? And then when do I take that something else into the next level, which is really what we're focusing on here. But I think it's important to open the conversation a bit to some of those other transitions as well.
Sure.
So Nick, you actually got into the space did you start with competition? Is that how you kind of found your way there?
Yeah. So brief history, my mom started doing obedience, competing in obedience and in conformation back in her teens. She kind of did a similar start to what I did. She started volunteering at a kennel that was down the street. And it was kind of a barter where she was allowed to show the owner of the facility's dogs in obedience and in conformation, and her entries were paid if she continued to help the groomers of the business and do all the kennel stuff and all of that. Kind of how I started. I started out in kennel at North Reading Vet Clinic, where I started doing my teching stuff. And the owner was just one of those really inspirational people who just really like to spread, inspiration and teach what she knows and inspire other people to kind of have a love for animals and a passion. And that's kind of how I got my start. I started out working just a low-end kennel job at the clinic for about a year. And then, the owner, Joan Barafaldi, invited me to start, I'd finish the kennel and I'd just go in and start teching appointments with her and just teaching me how to hold animals, how to, do blood draws, just minor stuff that's really not that big of a deal, but certainly getting my feet wet and really inciting some kind of passion. I've always had interest in veterinary field and working with animals since I was real little, just growing up with a whole house full we had a little bit of everything. My grandparents had goats and ducks and all kinds of random stuff. And so we've always been around animals. But yeah, I got my start kind of there, and furthermore into the dog sport world. My mom's always kind of been involved in that stuff. She took a break when she had my sister and I for a while, but she's always had Pembroke Welsh Corgis. That's her breed. And so when I was about 18, she got a new puppy because it had been a long time since she had shown or competed in anything. And she got a dog and started getting back in obedience and competing. And I just started watching her and really, starting to get kind of jealous that I didn't have a dog that I could train and work with. And so I got a puppy, and that's my older dog now, Sophie. I want to sleep in the chair right over there. She's turning 12 in September. But I started in obedience and then quickly found agility and got into just some intro classes at a local facility that was closer to my house.
So let me ask you, so for someone who's listening and they're doing, again, think about someone who's in a vertical, in a service vertical, or wants to get into a service vertical. I think that we probably have the gamut. Thinking about agility, or even AKC, even confirmation work. And Betsy, I'd like to have your thoughts on this as well. I'm in the industry and I find it overwhelming, right? I think about in fact, my family and I are in the middle right now of sourcing a new dog.
Sure.
And which is like such an experience, which we can talk about maybe in another webcast. Wow. Anyhow, we're in the middle of sourcing a new dog. Long story short, and I know that this is an experience that thousands of people have, more than thousands, tens of thousands of dog lovers. The thought of, when you think about getting your new dog or taking a dog that you already have and doing something interesting with that dog to add to your toolbox, where do you even start? I mean, let me just get to the point here. Where do you even start? I mean, if I wanted to take my dog and do some agility or do some obedience competition, or even if I had a purebred dog, do some confirmation, what are some really easy things that someone can do who's feeling very intimidated or just super, super confused by how to make that move and add that to their toolbox?
Certainly, in our facility here, we start everybody in what's called our basic pet classes. So just basic obedience, basic sit, stay, how to walk on a leash, controlled atmosphere with a little bit of distraction, just to try and make a well-rounded younger dog. And some of our dogs that enter that class are older dogs that just haven't had any, the owners might not have had time to get into it, or maybe now, situation's different, so now they want to engage, or they saw somebody else doing something with their dog and wanted to do it. But I think certainly, just taking a basic pet class and learning basic control and building a bond and relationship with your dog, even if it's just something like that, just a basic class that it doesn't even need to be agility. And certainly I'll talk about dock diving and stuff like that a little bit later. I'm sure we'll get to that. But that's the one thing I like about dock diving is if you have a dog that swims or, just likes the water, it doesn't take much to get a dog. You just have to build their confidence and really get them off the dock. So getting back to training, sorry. I think it's even just to go and we have competitions here almost every weekend for agility. So if you have a local facility that has events going on, certainly even just going and watching for a little bit and kind of seeing how something runs and
okay, that's a great piece of advice to go check it out. So to do that, would you just recommend something? I'm going to really get it down to the real granular piece. Is it just about Googling, agility competitions in Chicago? Like, is it something as basic and simple as that?
Right. There are AKC events, AKC specifically. If you go to their website, you can click on, now I don't have a direct line to this,
That's
but
okay. That's okay.
Type in agility trials, agility shows.
Okay.
There are, what usually happens is you have what are called trial secretaries, which are the people that organize and do all the paperwork stuff. So they have their own personal websites that list a lot of the trials that are upcoming in the general area. And it's usually about a 200-mile radius for each person. But there are shows that are all over the country every weekend.
Okay. So that's a really nice way if someone's considering adding agility to, let's say they want to, here's a good example, somebody who has a facility and they have a space that they know that they could buy some equipment and start to offer some agility classes, whether they're doing it as just for hobbyists or people. They can even, that would be a way to start, right? So if I have a facility and I'm thinking about adding agility, I can either hire an agility instructor, someone like yourself, and have them come in and, bring everything in and I can kind of learn from them. Or if I really want to understand it as a facility, thank you, Kara, she just put a link up. I can also just go and check it out myself and see kind of what if there's anything about it that makes sense for me.
I think initially, like if you're just going to go and kind of scope it out and see what it's about, I think it's better to kind of not bring your dog the first time.
For sure. Oh, for sure. No, I was talking about as an observer. No, we're not going to bring it
down. Certainly people, we get public all the time that come and watch. And, most of the time when we have shows going on, the regular business, the daycare and boarding aspect of our business is still open and functioning.
Sure.
So you get pet people that come in and maybe are picking their dog up and for 4 or 5 minutes just kind of enter the arena a little bit and take a watch and see what it's about. And I will certainly say that most of our people in our venues and I hope there are some watching, but I encourage everybody who's involved to be an advocate for what we do, and certainly welcome. You can usually pick new people out that aren't your traditional show people. They stand out usually. No offense to those people that don't compete, but
no offense taken.
From my perspective, you can usually see a person who's watching and observing. And for those people, I try and go over and just ask them if they've ever been involved in it before. And for those people that are competing and possibly watching, certainly do that. I mean, because the more we can encourage people to get involved, the bigger our sports grow and the more publicity we get for our sports. So
that's a really interesting perspective.
Go and look at events is what I can tell people to do. And certainly don't feel nervous or embarrassed to ask somebody what's going on or if they could explain something. Because most people are pretty generous with explaining and proud of what they do. So.
Thank you. Bets, what do you do when you're when in your situation? So you're working a lot with clients, right?
Right.
And you're doing a lot of one-on-one work, and you're working with behavior problems and so on and so forth. So you're not really not necessarily working specifically with professionals, although that's not true because you're an instructor in our academy. So you certainly have a lot of experience working with folks that are looking to get into the industry. But from your perspective as a Tellington Touch practitioner, someone who works with new professionals or professionals that are going through that school. And Nick, by the way, I'm going to mute you for a minute.
I'm going to move my whole thing here. How's this for radical?
Okay. I know. Ooh, radical. So while you're moving, I'll keep asking. I know you can listen and walk. You're really good at that. So like what would you recommend to somebody who is looking to increase, to do something? All right, let's just put it this way. I know for a fact that you work with people that you see them as they have a skill or a talent and that they would be really good as a professional in the pet space.
Right.
So, I mean, I know we've talked about that. We've all had that happen where our students go on to be our colleagues at some point.
Which is true.
Which is really, it's an amazing thing. How do you support folks, again, whether they're professionals already or you want to encourage them to pursue a world of working in the pet industry? What are some things that you recommend to start exploring? I mean, you've got the AKC Good Citizen Evaluator license, you've got certification, you've got your T-Touch. Tell me a little bit about how you have that conversation, what people can be thinking about.
Okay, and I'm sorry that I'm moving around so much.
I love this, actually. I feel like you have a GoPro.
Like my entire house. Now I'm sitting on my upstairs hallway floor.
Upstairs hallway floor. That is awesome.
I've got the birds on one side, the sleeping puppy on the other, and the husband on the phone downstairs. So welcome to my room.
All good. No, it's all good. All good.
So yeah, I mean, it is really exciting that I feel like in this industry, broadly speaking, there really are so many options that there's something for everybody. And in terms of how you might get started, I would say start with, what excites you? Some people are excited by agility. Some people are excited by conformation. They're excited by canine massage therapy or doing therapy work, or there's a zillion things and more every day. So I would say, once you have an interest, to follow on what Nick said, I encourage people to just go and take a look, go and observe something and always be willing. And I say this because I know there are a lot of sort of introverted people in this field, but always be willing to ask somebody, like compliment them on their dog, right? Who doesn't like that? Oh, your dog looks so good out there. How did you get started? Or do you have any instructors that you'd really recommend for just a complete novice, a complete newbie? And I've had to relearn this myself because just with our new puppy, I'll be showing him or he will be shown in conformation. And that's completely new to me. I mean, I've done a lot of things in the dog world, but I've never shown a dog. So that's interesting. So what I'm doing is I'm actually looping back to my clients who have been involved in this world. And I've reached out to them and said, hey, who do you recommend? Who are the instructors that have really been, important to you? Who's good in this area? And so I would say, do the Google search, but also ask people, for that personal referral is terrific. And in my experience, people love to be asked. You feel.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Maybe a little self-conscious, like, oh, they don't want to bother with me because I don't know anything. But that's word of mouth is terrific.
So one of our participants, Melanie, just commented, great advice. I've never been to a grooming show before. I had never been to a grooming show before a couple of weeks ago, and now I'm a lot more interested in it now as an art form.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's really about exposure. So if you're a pet professional, which Melanie happens to be, I know that for a fact, if you're a pet professional, it's really about just checking things out,
right,
and exposing yourself. That did not come out right, but you know what I mean? Getting yourself involved in and learning about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just going, even what I have found too, maybe you guys have as well, like going even to an event. So not even where there are dogs, but even going to like a networking event or like a fundraiser or a dinner or a meetup. Oh, wait, what did you say, Nick?
Like a pet expo or something. I've been to those.
Yeah. I mean, even on a larger scale, sure. Like even if you're in the pet space, you go to Global Pet Expo, or you go to Super Zoo, or even like a vertical specific trade show. That's certainly like taking a big bite out and checking things out and really getting exposed. That's massive exposure. Right. But I mean, in Chicago, I live in Chicago. Betsy lives in Chicago. Nick, you live obviously in Amherst. I mean, we have a lot of access. I can probably go on Facebook right now and type in dog events, and I would probably have, 25 things to choose from tonight. Yep. Or whether it's a meetup or whether it's, someone's hosting a rally, a rally backyard thing with some beers. I mean, like whatever it might be, right? That sounds fun, doesn't it?
I was just
yeah, I know. I'm gonna do that tonight. We're doing that. Come on over.
All right, I'll
beers and rally.
And you can even drill down a little bit further and say, like, if you weren't just looking for, any general event, but like if you wanted to, I have a bunch of clients who are interested in getting involved in one way or another with, say, canine assisted therapy. Mm-hmm. So either they want to be in a hospital or they want to do like a dog-based literacy program like SitStayRead that I was involved with for years. You can just search for your area and literacy program or, canine therapy, whatever. And then you'll get, you'll get more in our area, as you said, Jamie, the problem really can be that there are so many things to choose from. Sure. And that's where I think you just have to come back to, what kind of sparks that interest? Like, oh, I wonder what that's about.
Well, and that actually leads me to a couple of things that we talked about. I'm not sure if we were live when we were talking about this or if we were just having the discussion between the three of us before we went live, but burnout. Did we talk about burnout when we were live? That's this idea between like
I think it was
burnout before. Okay, so before we went live then, and if I'm repeating myself, that's cool too, because it's something I think worth hearing twice, that there's a confusion. People who are working with animals, what ends up happening is that you start to feel burnt out. But what it really is, and I think that, Nick and Betsy and I really agreed on this, it's not about burnout. It's about feeling like you have more to learn and that there's more to do. And that might be on the revenue side. You have a facility or a business that you can certainly kind of extract more revenue from your customers by offering them additional services, or whether it's something, and I think I am in that space right now personally, where you just want to give back and you want to do that with the skill set that you already have, or that you want to really find some maturity around. So, I think that it could be both ways. When you're talking about, and this whole focus that we're talking about today is about adding new tools to your toolbox, I don't think it even needs to be about necessarily tools or adding skills to build your business. I think it could be about just building, your heart and building, a new community around volunteer work. And I think that we sometimes forget that is something that's an itch that sometimes people need to scratch. On the professional side, though, however, I do think that there's a lot more opportunity to take wherever you are right now. So whatever you're doing, we're going to use pet sitter and dog walker because that's a low overhead business, easy to ramp up. And I think that's a large, I think if we're looking statistically, there are more pet sitters and dog walkers nationally and arguably internationally than there are dock dive instructors or T-touch practitioners, perhaps.
It's near your area, so yeah.
I'm just guessing. Crazy stat. So I would say too that there are so many programs and opportunities just as far as education is concerned that people, I don't know, I know that a lot of folks are certainly gravitating towards that. You've got, you've got Animal Behavior College, you've got Catch Dog Training Academy, you've got, grooming schools all over the place, including, in Petco, PetSmart in particular, which we are very familiar with here at FetchFind. They have an incredible grooming school. And you can do these things, going to become a trainer, going to dog training school, veterinary assistant school. I mean, there are ways, and I'll tell you, that's how I grew my career. So I didn't even think about this until this moment. I was a dog walker. I had a really sizable and really successful dog walking company in the 90s and knew that I wanted to become a dog trainer. So I actually went to a school that is no longer, or maybe it's still around, Arizona Canine Academy. So I sold I found a partner, sold half of my dog walking business and pet sitting business to a partner, went away for 6 months to Arizona and studied dog training and behavior, came back and then started that business. So there is a really natural way of doing that. I always say that had I known what I know now about some other education opportunities, namely PetSmart as a grooming school, I would have probably done that. Anything I could have done at that time and, and even in the future, as I look at different opportunities to grow my base and to kind of think about how to continue to become even a better professional, so to speak, there's just a tremendous, I think a lot of thought should be given to making that kind of commitment, because that really does help you to come up, that helps you again, either on the personal side, but certainly on that professional revenue side, looking at a school or a program like that. What do you guys think about those kind of bigger steps that require time and money and, really a big dedication?
Certainly having an accreditation with something, an association, whatever it is, certainly makes you a more professional business, I would think. If we just, perfect example, if we just put in a regular dock diving pool that wasn't really associated with anything, I think in terms of my certifications, if I didn't have any, if you have new clientele that are coming in for the first time and you're not really affiliated with an association, from my perspective, I feel like it may kind of seem like you're less qualified to be an instructor or less skilled at what you do, versus if you have the backing of a certification or a license. It shows that you've put in the effort and really have all your ducks in a row and really have the skill set to be in the position that you're at.
That's what do you think? You're a teacher. You're actually an instructor in a program here, actually in Chicago at FetchFind, for folks that want to become pet professionals. What's your experience with that? What do you see in those students? And let's talk a little bit about the blend of those students as well. So you have folks that are talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So there are students who are, really they come to the program from any number of different backgrounds, different levels of experience. And some, Jamie, are just very much like your situation that you just described, where, they have one business and maybe they're wondering sort of what's next, what can I add to this? Maybe I'd like to go from being a dog walker to maybe making that business bigger, or maybe be a trainer, etc. So they really come from, and others are just like, they know right off the bat, like, I want to be a dog trainer and that's my life goal. But I would say those students tend to be in the minority. You know, usually they've done something else, either related or not even related, and then they're kind of exploring, which is really what we're talking about here today, is that process of exploration. I also just wanted to add that when you go through a certification program, not only, this is in addition to what all of the benefits that Nick mentioned that I completely agree with, whether it's dock diving or whatever, you know that you have a body of knowledge, but you also have a body of support. You have a network. You have people who are in it with you and on whom you can call during your training, after your training, you know, through either with the phone, the old-fashioned way, or through, you know, online, what's that? You know, online, you know, networking groups, whatever. And I find that really valuable because invariably, no matter how smart you are, how much experience you have, invariably, you're going to hit those points where you're like, you know, what am I missing here? You know, is there something I'm not seeing? Is there, who has ideas? Who's dealt with this before? Whether that's a business question or a training question, right? And going through those more formal certification processes, they really afford you I want to say the luxury, but it's really like the essential business aspect of having people you can call on when you just, you know, are kind of clutching at straws.
So interestingly, I think we should talk a little bit for a second. I'd love to hear everyone's perspective on this, but this whole idea of certification and licensing and things of that nature. I think that, you know, we know this, we're in this industry. Can you guys hear me okay? Is there feedback? Can you hear me okay? You know, there's a lot of misconception and mythological thinking around what it means to be licensed or certified as a pet professional. Let's just be really honest, right? That there is none. Right. There's nothing required. No. I mean, there's nothing required other than being a veterinarian or a licensed veterinary technician or a registered veterinary technician. There is no state licensure required to whether you're, you know, you can start doing T-Touch. You don't have to be certified. You can start doing, the only thing you probably couldn't do truthfully is to do the AKC Good Citizen test, because then you can't submit you can't submit those folks to the AKC to get their credentialing.
From my perspective, you had to be certified, but
right. I mean, so there's some things, especially within the AKC world, because that's just their governance and like that's the way it works and that's how they make a lot of money and all that sort of thing. We can talk about that in another webcast. Right. But you know, I think that it's important, and I think that there's good and bad with that, right? Because the good part of that, of course, like you guys just both said so beautifully, that it does create some framework, community, professionalism, all of the things that we really want to see our industry aspire to across all service verticals. But also the fact that there isn't a requirement to just try to start playing with some of these ideas, to start, trimming your dog's nails or jumping over, going through some weave pulls or doing some light movement, body work. I mean, I think that actually, I go back and forth. Personally, I go back and forth with like what's good, what's bad about both of those things. But I think because it is what it is, it allows the barrier, the barrier for entry is actually a lot lower, and that's a benefit to exploration. I think where things get really messy is where you take that to where you run with that career choice or that additive career choice or whatever it's going to be, and you don't stop and say, okay, I don't have to do these things. I don't have to become certified. I don't have to get have any letters after my name, but I choose to.
Right. I've always felt that in our field, because anyone can literally, go online, print up some business cards, or not even, they can go to the dog park and say, hey, I'm a dog trainer. Let me take your dog. That's terrifying to me.
Yeah.
And many, many, many people don't understand this. They don't understand that literally anybody can walk up to anybody and say, I'm a dog trainer, and they're legally doing so. That's right. Unethically, but legally, right? So I've always felt that in this field, that because there is not this external rule, right, that we are forced to follow by the passage of some laws, that we, or at least I personally, need to hold myself to at least as high a standard as would ever be legislated, because I don't ever want to, I don't ever want to even charge somebody for my expertise if in fact I don't have any expertise. That's dishonest, and that's not who I am. And that's why I did choose to become a T-Touch practitioner, because that is, again, you know, within the world of Tellington Touch, that's what's required to charge clients for your services, is you need to be a certified practitioner. So I feel like because there's no external requirement, that we need to step up our game and hold ourselves accountable, because that's how we can maintain the professionalism and move the professionalism of the field forward.
And Nick, I think that's, I mean, so that's obviously why we're so happy to have both of you on our webcast today, because you both hold that truth. You hold that as a truth, and you're letting that be a guiding factor in your own professional development. I mean, Nick, when you were talking about, is it mock or what is it?
It's a mock, yeah, math.
Okay. Oh my God, I swear. When you're talking about mock and POC, you know, you're talking about it with like this. I mean, it's a sense of pride, a sense of accomplishment.
Absolutely.
But it also is really it lends a lot of credibility. Right. And I think that's part of maybe what Betsy was saying, is that, like, because yes, anyone can do it, but when we seek out to have letters in any way, shape, or form after our dog's name or our name, or a combination of both,
sure,
it really does. I think it helps our industry at large.
Right.
Talk a little bit about why Nick, you must be in that same mindset.
I mean, for me, word of mouth is huge in this industry. So it only takes one person to really interpret a situation or having a bad experience to really end somebody's career. So it's very important to really keep that professionalism as high as you can. And I mean, and on another aspect for me, being involved in you know, action sports and involvement with performance sports with my dogs. I mean, another big aspect of it is really putting, you know, your skills to the test. So, I mean, for me, going to bigger competitions, making appearances at bigger things that you have to qualify for, things that not every person goes to. I think really, you know, if you can really get involved in higher stuff, you know, for a perfect example, like I'm leaving for St. Louis end of September. I'm going to compete at the Purina Incredible Dog Show.
Okay.
So, but you know, you really need to, if you're not certified in something, certainly trying to excel as best you can personally with your own dog, and trying to make yourself the best you can, even if you don't have that certification, really allows you to put yourself out there, have other people see that, wow, that person's, you know, doing something that's a little bit higher caliber, maybe, or maybe not, maybe just going out and showing enthusiasm at the event you're at. And just being a really strictly positive person and really showing that you're having a blast and really having a good time. People pick up on that and people feed off of that energy. So, you know, if I'm judging, or if I'm judging an event, dock diving, or if I'm judging agility, or even if I'm competing myself, I try and exhibit the professionalism and the enthusiasm that I want everybody else to really exhibit. So monkey see, monkey do, I guess, is what I really try and do. And the more positive and the more good of a time I can try and show that I'm having, it really, I try and inspire other people to try and match me. I mean, I'm a pretty loud person. So
love that.
If I can get people to really be involved with me and have a good time, that's what further promotes, you know, what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to encourage others to really, even if you're just having fun with your dog on a dock and and you're not even competing, if you're having a good time, that's what I set out to do. So
let me ask you the big question.
Yep.
Here's a big question. This is for both of you guys, both of you folks. From where you are right now in this moment, on Tuesday, August 29th at 12:19 Central Time, if you had to pick another thing to try out and explore, just like we're recommending, right, to the folks that are tuning in right now, what is the next thing that you would do? In the pet world. I'm talking about the pet industry.
In the pet industry.
Yeah, sorry. I meant to say, I should have said that. Yeah. Let's all think about that for a second. Yeah. In fact, I would throw this to the folks listening. I'd love to hear, we'd love to hear what you would want to do. As it could be something inventive, crazy, something obvious. Like what would be the thing right now if you said, you know what, I'm going to take 3 hours a week and I'm going to explore this thing, or I'm going to study this thing. What is that thing?
Are we looking for broad spectrum or specifics?
Well, no, I think something like if you had to do it, like if you had the opportunity to do it, like it has to be specific enough that you can actually go and look at it, touch it, see it, do it, smell it, feel it, be a part of it.
I'm gonna have to stew for a second. Thank you.
I know. I think this is a great.
I feel like there are so many cool things. This has been the story of my life. Like, there's so many cool things that I want to do that, picking one is hard. I know two things that so we haven't touched on it yet, but one thing that would be at the top of my list if I hadn't already spent a whole lot of time doing it would be tracking. I think tracking is the most unsung, fantastic thing for so many dogs. Get out there, walk through some woods, let the dog be the leader, do what the dog is bred to do, and is regardless of breed. So that's awesome. But I've already done that. So I would say, actually, one of the things that I've always been interested in and never personally had the dog to do it with myself is, but I have worked with many clients in this thing, is I actually would love to really get into different types of therapy work, especially with older people, because I happen to think that old people are awesome, and it's a growing population, and it is something that I think is going to expand, and there might actually be a whole business opportunity for in-home therapy dog visits. Like you have your in-home occupational therapist, you have your in-home nurse practitioner. Maybe there's a, travel around in your car and go visit the old people with your dog, That's something that for me, I haven't explored, but I know there are other people out there who, this is for whom this is their life. So that it would be exciting to me.
That's a fabulous. That's great thinking. I love that.
You
had a little entrepreneurial piece in there. I mean, that was real nice, Beth.
Every once in a while, rub those two things together.
That's amazing. All right, Nick. All the pressure's on, my friend.
For those of us that do, performance events and stuff, our dogs certainly get old enough that they start to retire. And my 12-year-old dog, my first dog, is getting to the point now where she's winding down. And for me, to continue working her I want a good quality of life with her, and I want her to live as long as she can. So she's done everything I've expected. So therapy work would probably be on my list of things that I wouldn't mind doing. Specifically, if there was involvement in either like a children's hospital or more kid-based things. My sister is a specialized teacher who works a lot with young autistic children, but certainly either something involving that or cancer, children with ailments and diseases in hospitals. Every time they see a dog, they usually perk up, and we know that high spirits are certainly what allow people to get better sometimes. So something like that from that perspective. But Betsy stole my answer, so that's okay. But I guess more away from therapy, if I had to choose something that I haven't done yet or been involved in, I have 2 Labrador Retrievers and a Border Collie. So my yellow lab Goose, who's my big competition dog right now, comes from a whole line of field labs. So mom and dad are both bird dogs. That's what they do all the time. So that's something I haven't done before. So maybe something in terms of field training or retrieval work. I guess it would be more towards competition, because that's what I do anyways. So either something like that, or now that I have a new Border Collie puppy, maybe something involving herding. That would be cool. But something that involves what my dogs were bred to do, and really kind of see them in their natural element and what they were bred to excel in. Maybe trying to exploit some of those characteristics and bring those out a little bit more in my dogs.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Can I just chime in here too with